So much for taking the time to join us this evening for our first ever Power webinar. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to arm you with the keys to becoming a successful fundraiser. Fundraising is really quite basic and comes down to 3 guiding principles, which we're going to share with you this evening. On the call tonight, we have FPWR's Executive Director and One Small Step Extraordinaire, Susan Hedstrom, the National One Small Step Coordinator for FPWR Canada, Carol Elkall, and myself, Dana Capobianco, the National One Small Step Coordinator for the United States. On tonight's call, everyone is on mute by default, but at the end of the presentation, we're going to open the floor up for questions. At that time, you can unmute yourself, or you can type a question into the chat box that appears on the right side of your screen, and we'll do our best to help you. In the interest of time, we're going to jump right in. I'm not going to tell you tonight that fundraising is easy because for many of us it's quite outside of our comfort zones, but there are 3 simple steps that if completed will bring you fundraising success. Successful fundraisers know their cause, ask their network to support the cause, and thank their donors. Tonight we'll go into detail of each of these 3 steps as well as provide you with examples examples of how other successful fundraisers have not only reached their fundraising goals, but made their efforts fun and memorable. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan Hedstrom, who will share with you more about FPWR's research program and how your fundraising donations are making an impact on PWS research.
Good evening, everybody. This is Susan Hedstrom. Successful fundraisers know their cause. They can share with their supporters why the organization is important to them and the impact the organization is having on the community it serves. FPWR's most successful fundraisers can explain to their donors what we do and the impact that we're having on PWS research. The mission of the Foundation for Prader-Willi Research is to eliminate the challenges of Prader-Willi syndrome through the advancement of research. We do this by awarding research grants to university researchers and spearheading special research initiatives that target investments in areas of particular promise. We select projects that will significantly advance the understanding and treatments of PWS and prioritize studies that will expedite the development of new therapies to treat this complex and challenging disorder. The #1 priority of the Foundation for Prader-Willi Research is to advance research that enables the development of new therapeutic interventions for our loved ones with PWS. For this reason, we support research studies throughout the drug development pathway, from beginning investigations identifying potential drug compounds, all the way through to testing drug safety and efficacy in human clinical trials. I would like to share with you just 2 examples of projects in our drug development portfolio. In 2014, FPWR funded Dr. Jang at Duke University to screen a library of about 1,000 compounds to potentially identify drug candidates. In that study, Dr. Jang identified 2 compounds that showed potential, and he is now taking steps to test the efficacy of these drugs in an animal model. Last year, FPWR provided funding for a phase 1 study of DC, or diazoxide choline controlled release tablets. This is a new formulation of an FDA-approved drug, diazoxide. In the study, DCCR was both reduced hyperphagia and negative behaviors. The industry sponsor is now seeking funding for an additional investigation, and we should know more about that later this year. These are just 2 examples of studies FPWR has funded in our efforts to find therapeutics for PWS. We have proudly supported numerous studies that directly impact drug development for PWS treatments, as well as collaborated with industry-led initiatives to help move potential drugs through the clinical trials. Where even just 5 years ago, there were no potential treatments in sight, we now have multiple clinical trials in phases 1, 2, and 3. This is something to be really excited about. To date, FPWR has provided nearly $7 million in PWS research, and with your help, we plan to grow this funding exponentially over the next few years. Your fundraising dollars have allowed FPWR to fund the development of critical resources such as PWS stem cells, animal models, the global PWS registry. We've also been able to bring together experts in the medical and research field for collaborative meetings to advance research in mental health and other priority areas. Our work is only limited by two precious resources, time and money, but you can help us with that through your fundraising efforts.
Thank you, Susan. Hearing about the research that's being funded is so exciting to me, and I find that my donors love hearing about it as well. To know that their dollars are funding projects that are yielding results that could lead to potential treatments is so motivating. As you said, as fundraisers, arming ourselves with the knowledge, even a basic understanding of that research is so important and will make a tremendous difference as we approach potential donors. When you can persuasively explain what you're fundraising for, the second step to successful fundraising is making the ask. Carol will now share with you a few tips to effectively ask your family and friends for a donation.
Thank you, Dana. This is Carol E. Today we have so many options as to how we can reach people. We can approach people and businesses in person or via mail, telephone, email, and even social media. Your ask approach may not be one size fits all. As a matter of fact, I think that evaluating your audience and then deciding what the best type of outreach would be is a great idea. Here are some tips for making an ask. You have to ask multiple times and in different ways. Sometimes you'll need to follow up. Maybe you visited someone or a business in person, but you haven't seen the donation come through yet, so sending a follow-up email is always a good idea. Different people prefer to communicate in different ways, so use all the resources you can. Email, Facebook, Instagram, a paper and pencil, or the good old telephone. Weave your fundraising efforts into conversations over coffee. You know your people and what method will work best with them. And plan ahead. Begin your fundraising a bit before your event is always going to happen, and so that you can plan several opportunities to communicate with your potential donors ahead of time. You may have to ask more than once. People want to donate, but they often need to be reminded. When using social media to solicit donations, you have to be creative. People love visuals. Choose different pictures or videos to share that will keep your audience engaged and keep your messaging positive and unique. Most importantly, in making the ask is just that. You have to ask. The number one reason that people do not give is because they are not asked. There are also many benefits to choosing technology and social media while fundraising. One of my favorite features about the online OSS platform is that every time someone makes a donation to our fundraising pages, we get an alert via email. As soon as we see that email come through, we have our first opportunity to thank our donor. And I like to think that there's no time like the present to do just that. We've seen lots of fundraisers have great success when they take to social media to thank their donors. Give a shout out for friends and family on Facebook does a couple of great things. First of all, it provides a platform for your generous donors to be recognized not only by you, but by the rest of our community as well as theirs. So it blossoms. You get a lot more support for the cause and a lot more vision. Second, it's a gentle reminder to the rest of the people on your friends list that you're fundraising. Perhaps one of your friends has been meaning to donate, but has forgotten until they see your post. Now they can hop on over to your page and make a donation of their own. The last thing that successful fundraisers do to acknowledge their donors is to send a handwritten note. You may choose to do this for donors that have donated at a certain financial level or to everyone that has supported you. Receiving a handwritten note, thank you, shows your donor that you appreciate their donation so much that you took the time out to acknowledge them in a special way. In the past, for my events, we've sent out handwritten thank yous to many of our donors, and it has always paid back in dividends. When people feel appreciated, they want to come back and help every year.
Thank you, Carol. I love the idea of writing a little handwritten thank you note to donors. We often send handwritten cards, and I have to say, I think people really appreciate that personal touch and bit of extra acknowledgement. Our last item for today's webinar is to talk about ways that you can make your fundraising fun. I find that the most successful events are those that are fun and fit into your community or your life organically. Events that you can easily plug into something that you're already doing in your life via a hobby or your work are becoming really popular, and for good reason. We've seen people that frequent CrossFit gyms have a class or challenge to support their cause. Lots of people that work from home for companies like 31 Bags or Origami Owl, things like that, are able to host a fundraiser from the comfort of their own homes. People in our community are reaching their fundraising goals by hosting fun mini events right now. You've Been Flocked is one fun example of how the Walkers are making fundraising a community event. For $25, you can flock your neighbor. I love this one. Last month, the Rectors held an online art auction. All the pieces of art were created by young artists with PWS and donated to the auction. The Rectors were hoping to raise $200 with this event, but they brought in almost $2,000. Here are just a few more easy ways fundraisers are encouraging donations. The photo on the top left was from a paint night that I recently hosted, which was a super easy way to organize. Paint Night is a company that does all of the work for you. All I had to do was find people to come to a fun night to paint and drink wine. From this event, we raised almost $1,000 in just one night. In the center, you see our family photographers offering a special photo session with 100% of session fees going to FPWR. On the right, Sarah Peden recently conducted a t-shirt sale through Booster and raised $2,000. And below that, you'll see Rhonda Jensen is organizing a Harley ride with the Poker Twist. The photo in the middle on the bottom is from a Harley ride hosted on Long Island by Rose Rouse. And to the left of center, you see a photo from the Live Life Full Chicago Gala. These are just a few ideas that fundraisers are using that are helping them reach their fundraising goals in fun and creative ways. Really, the sky is the limit. Anything can be turned into a fundraiser. So to summarize, the keys to successful fundraising. Number one, know your cause. To date, FPWR has funded more than 120 research projects at leading institutions internationally. Number two, make the ask. The number one reason that people give is because they were asked. Number three, thank your donors. Don't forget to publicly thank your donors on social media. And number four, tap into your creative side and find a unique way to make fundraising fun for you and your community. At this time, we're going to take questions. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. If you would like to, you can unmute yourself now and ask a question. You can raise your hand, or you can type a question into the chat section on the right side of the screen.
Thank you, Dana, so much for organizing this. As we promised, this was going to be a power webinar tonight, so we were keeping it to 20 minutes. We do have some questions in the queue, so we're going to go ahead and start answering them as they come in. The first question is about charging admission. Can I host an event that charges admission?
Yes. We have several events that utilize our website for event registration and ticket sales. We can set up online ticket sales at fpwr.org.
Fantastic. And to add to that, we've had a number of events who have done this. Jack's Party on the Patio was a low-key fundraising event at a restaurant. They charged $25, I believe, per head, and all of those sales were done online using our website, essentially. So we have that technology built right in to our support. The next question, will my donors get a tax receipt?
Yes. When people make a donation of $25 or more online, the donor will automatically receive a tax receipt by email. If the donation is made by check, a tax receipt will be mailed to the donor within 3 days.
Thank you. You guys may be familiar with Gwen Spearman. She works for FPWR, and she makes sure that all of these receipts are mailed out in a timely fashion. So you can be assured that all of your donors will receive tax receipts in a timely manner. And here's a follow-up question to that. Do tax receipts apply to sponsors as well? So a donor, which includes a sponsor, receives a tax receipt for the tax-deductible portion of their donation. So if someone is purchasing an item, for example, with a monetary value, that monetary value would be removed from the tax deductibility. In the case of sponsors, very often in our case, they're simply providing a larger sum of money. They're not expecting anything in return, in which case they would also receive a tax receipt for that donation.
Great.
The next question, how do you host an online auction?
So, as I mentioned, Amber and Jason Rector conducted their auction on Facebook through comments. Each item had a photo in the auction photo album, and then people would place a bid by writing a comment with your bid amount. So I know Sarah Peden also does an online auction the same way. People are creating event pages on Facebook, creating albums with the items, and then people are bidding via comment.
Mm-hmm. It's really quite a creative way, I think, to host something like that. I mean, I know Amber's on the line, so I hate to speak for her, but they were really impressed with the success of that event. And what I personally liked about it was, one, it was creative and unique. No one else is doing anything like that. And two, it brought in volunteers from the PWS community to donate their art. So it wasn't just selling items, it was actually auctioning off these amazing pieces of work created by families in our community. So very unique, very creative, and as you can see, it was also very successful.
Yes.
That's the end of our questions for now. I would encourage any of you, if you do have questions after today's webinar, to simply send us an email. Both Dana and Carol's contact information is available for you on this slide. We're also going to be recording and making this webinar available. I know we went through the material super fast. Again, we know everyone's time is valuable, so we were trying to keep the entire content of this webinar to 20 minutes as we had promised. But our team is here to be a resource to you if you have any questions after the webinar.
Thanks, Susan. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I really hope that you leave the call tonight feeling empowered and ready to go and make your fundraising experience more fun and successful than ever. And I look forward to hearing from you. Again, my contact information and Carol's is on the screen, so reach out to us whenever you'd like.